84, 85, you got women that are going into the space of, having to work because, either they just don't feel like waiting on men, or the men in their lives just weren't doing what they were supposed to do. So you listen to Weekend Girl and you listen and you hear, Mary, like, I just don't have time, but I'm not turning. So it's
And
not like,
that fellas was the key. She said, "I don't have time, but I'm not turning you down." Because if
yeah.
you if you don't get that, then this becomes a harassment anthem. This becomes a cautionary tale of
Yes.
yeah. Then you become the guy that's getting tweeted about.
This is day number 19 of the BMM 30 series here on the Groove Line. And as you can see, I have a very special guest. We've traveled up and down these black college sports and journalism roads together for many a year. We've, had our discussions about music and different things. And we finally have one of our favorite mutual bands is finally back on stream after 5 years. But when we found out about it, he hit me up and said, Chris, I got to be on the show. I got to be on the Groove Line. I said, you got an open spot on the train. So ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to welcome HBCU Game Day founder, multi-hyphenate, and music lover Stephen J. Gaither to the Groove Line. SJG, how you doing, man?
I'm good, Chris. Appreciate you for having me on, man. I feel honored, man. It's been a fun to follow your work and get to know you via online over these past decade plus. So
Goodness
um,
gracious. Whew. We've been
yeah,
at this a while, haven't we?
yeah, man. Time just keeps on rolling, but it's a pleasure, and yeah, man. What better occasion than the reappearance of the SOS band onto streaming media?
Man, that Saturday when Brandon Ousley dropped that news, I said, "Whoa!" Like it literally stopped me in my tracks. I said, "He said the SOS band is back on stream. You're welcome." I thought it was BS, and I said, "No, no, 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 no." I went right to Spotify. First thing I see is "The Finest," which is one of my favorite SOS songs. I was
Hmm.
like, "There is a God." But yes, so obviously for those of us, I'm an elder millennial, clearly an elder millennial, and SJG's a millennial. But the thing that we have about 90s and 80s R&B is just something that's uniquely, part of our DNA, is that's the music we were brought up listening to. So just how excited were you to find out that the SOS band was back on stream?
Oh man, I was beyond ecstatic. It's so crazy. Like literally, like 2 days before, one of my good friends from WSSU, Dr. Jerisha Farrar, she was literally saying how there needed to be some type of divine intervention to get the SOS band back on streaming services in time for cookout season, and that was literally on Thursday. And then you wake up Saturday morning, and what better time for it to be Saturday morning than
Oh my
Saturday
God, yes.
morning? Time to clean up, time for Soul Train, time for, planning of the cookouts, and we get the SOS band back. And so it was literally divine intervention. And so I'm just so happy to have, been able to see it happen and come to fruition.
Yeah, she spoke that into existence, and we thank Dr. Farrar very, very much. So
Yeah, yeah.
let's talk about the SOS band from a historical standpoint. They occupy a unique place in 80s R&B lore because they're the first group that Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis really started to kind of warm up on as far as production goes. The first song Jimmy and Terry ever had placed on anybody's album was a song they wrote called High Hopes that was on the SOS Band 3 album that was produced by Leon Silvers and his family.
Smacks.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh my God. That bass. By the way, I say this all the time. You can tell Leon Silver's production by the bass, and that's another one of those productions where the bass is just like absolutely thunderous, like you could tell. But they really got cooking on the On the Rise album, and just when you listen to something like Just Be Good to Me, because it's one of the first two or three songs on the album. Just when you listen to Take Your Time, and then you in 80, and then in 83 you have Just Be Good to Me. Just what
Right.
kind of, just what do you get from that sense of, artistic growth and artistic, I guess, change, if you will, from a band that's playing everything to hearing, like a TR 808 drum set and the cowbell, of course, which is, the big thing in that drum program.
Yeah, man, I think it's just like you nailed it, man. You're talking about the first album from the first three albums where they, didn't use Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. I mean, some great stuff. I was just listening to some of it last night. But it's like when the Jacksons went from the Gamble and Huff, and we love Gamble and Huff, but they
Hmm.
had some really good songs on there. But when they went to producing for themselves, how that just went up another notch. I'll compare it to that. I mean, this is that we often have this discussion about songs that, and I think maybe even one of the music sermon prompts this year, or just in general, about what song would you have loved to have been like out and about in the
Hmm.
club, or just out and about for the release of, and take your time. That song is one of those songs. It's just like it's so timeless, and you can feel it, even if you weren't around for it, or you weren't cognizant of it. You can just it's just it's I think it is one of those bops that will never, it truly is timeless. So yeah, that jump, amazing. And then you think of everything that Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis have accomplished in over 40 years now
Yeah.
of producing for other artists, and that was the start, man. I mean, could you ask for a better start than that?
I don't think you can, honestly. I mean, when you think about the stuff they got, to put out before, Janet took over with Control, you
Word.
have three SOS Band albums. You have, um, who else did they produce for at the time? They did Encore by Cheryl Lynn. I was good
Mm.
and grown when I found out that that was a Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis production.
Right, right.
I was like, holy smokes! They did a Change of Heart for Change, and
Sherelle and
yeah,
Alexander O'Neill.
yeah, I just did the Alexander O'Neill a video earlier this month about his debut album and just how that was an absolute classic. I mean, before we even get to Janet, I mean Janet, Demita, Joe Jackson, these dudes were already creating heat for other people. But speaking of the On the Rise album and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis productions and Jimmy Jam
Right.
and Terry Lewis ballads, there is one on there that is captured the imagination of boomers, Gen Xers, and millennials for 40 plus years, and that is Tell Me If You Still Care. And I believe you have a theory about that song that you want to share with the audience.
Yeah, I would like to suppose that "Tell Me If You Still Care" by the SOS Band is the greatest spin the block record of all time. And R&B was kind of made on spin the block records. It's
Yes.
made on I messed up. Hey, let's give me another chance. You got Sam Cooke, Bring It Home to Me. But this is, I without a doubt, I think it is definitely the greatest spin the block record of its time. There are a couple others I did kind of think of after I told you that. Beyond the SOS band, there is one kind of another band that kind of parallel to them, Atlantic Star, Symphony.
Mhm.
I don't know if you'd consider that. Maybe that more of like a we're about to break up,
No, I
record.
think I think it does. Matter of fact, rest in peace to Wayne Lewis. By the way, I mean that
Yeah,
was just so sudden. But yeah, I mean I think it's in the chorus. Goodbye doesn't mean a thing with you and I. Our love is still throughout the test of time. If you plan on leaving me behind, let me put one thing on your mind. I mean, yeah, I mean it's pretty much over. But he's saying I'm just a telephone call away. So yeah, it fits. But I do like where you're going with "Tell Me If You Still Care" because there's the part where Mary and I believe that's Jason Bryant singing where they have that little conversation in the middle.
oh,
you know
that's what really. I mean, that's
mhm.
where really, in some of those, not all of them, but like that one, and I'm sure we'll talk about Weekend Girl, which is another one of my like right up there. I mean, those interactions, like, and it's one of those things that like you hear it when you're a child, like you hear like take the time, do it. You hear that, and it's like it's kind of timeless, but and of course those things have other meanings, but it's like one of those things where like when you get older, you have lived a little bit, you're like, man, this really captures like I mean the music itself is just enough. I mean the 808, I mean it was just I don't know that there's a better 808 than that one, especially in a ballad. I'm a ballad
No.
guy. And then just the build up, both of them kind of, giving their back and forth. I guess maybe somebody would say that another great spin the block song in that canon is Love Them and Leave Them.
Oh, Fire and
Fire and
Desire.
Desire. Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
yeah. It's those two. It's those two at the top. Everything else is just like fighting for third, fourth place.
yeah, but as like you said, the interaction between the two just feels so real. And it's like, it's like, and so even the cheesy, even the part where it's like cheesy, where it's like, do you really care? Let me feel my heartbeat
Yeah.
for you. And like it's cheesy, but it's like
It's so
it's like
80s. It's so 80s.
it's so 80s and it's so authentic to like the like look, you'll say anything. You'll say anything, you'll say
Mhm.
no, you don't care how cheesy you get. You're like, yo, let's run it back. So yeah, I think it's the greatest spin the block song of all time. Um, in respect to Fire and Desire, but
Yeah, and you mentioned Weekend Girl. I think Weekend Girl. I mean, I'm gonna jump out on a limb here. Rest in peace to Tina Marie. But
let's make this a limb jumping show, man.
yeah, I'm just gonna jump out on a limb and say that this is a feminist anthem that nobody really thinks is a feminist anthem. But you think about it, like this dude is walking her down, like, yo, I would do anything for a little bit of your time. And she's like, well, I got this job. You know what I'm saying? I'm busy. I'm busy Monday through Friday, but give me a call on Saturday. And it's like women, you got to remember when this record came out in 1984, 1985 ish, women were really starting to get into the workplace. I mean, I can speak from experience. My mom, single mom, she was a secretary you know, at a social services firm. She ended up becoming executive director down the line, but she was a secretary then. But she had a 3-year-old son, and we didn't know it at the time, but my little sister was on the way. So 84, 85, you got women that are going into the space of, you know, having to work because either they just don't feel like waiting on men or the men in their lives just weren't doing what they were supposed to do. So you listen to Weekend Girl and you listen and you hear, Mary, like, I just don't have time, but I'm not turning. So it's
And
not like,
that fellas was the key. She said, "I don't have time, but I'm not turning you down." Because if
yeah.
you if you don't get that, then this becomes a harassment anthem. This becomes a cautionary tale of
Yes.
yeah. Then you become the guy that's getting tweeted about. But no, yeah. I mean, it's like it's just it's the hesitancy, it's the push and the pull, it's the persistency, the gentlemanly persistency.
Mhm.
It's storytelling in music. Another one where the 808. Again, the 808 machine that day was blessed. Whatever they did with it that day, it just. I think Cameron did a freestyle over it, or he might have done a whole song on the album with it once, and it's just like it's just a timeless beat. But yeah, man, it's just another one. It's like once they got that on the rise, man. From there, I think that was 83, then 84, 86. I mean, they just took off.
Yeah, it kind of stops after 86 because Mary Davis left and went solo. And it turned out, it's unfortunate that a lot of these groups end up breaking up because they find that they're only as good as they are together. And that's not a slight, but it's rare that, somebody goes solo and actually ascends. Like in the 80s, for example, like Lionel Richie. Lionel Richie left the Commodores and Lionel Richie became Lionel Richie, but the Commodores were still good. Night Shift won a Grammy and Lionel was nowhere to be found when they did Night Shift. So, it's just
Jeffrey Osborne,
LTD, yeah.
and
And LTD was still putting out good music after Jeffrey left. It's just it was. After Mary Davis left, those last two SOS Band. Has anybody listened to those last two SOS albums after Mary Davis? I don't think so.
yeah, tough. I just was going through. But those three albums, man.
Mhm.
On the rise, just the way you like it, and Sands of Time. I think Sands of Time is totally slept on.
It might it
The,
might it might be their best album front to back.
yeah. Even when you sleep, Sands of Time, Borrow Love, of course, the finest. those, I mean, those just on a loop themselves are just amazing. But I really have out of their nine big singles, I think "Sands of Time" is one that I think gets overlooked a lot. It's just a nice mellow. It's just a nice mellow mood. I tell you, you drive it. That's one of those ones that you put the. That is one of those ones that you put the. You put your sunroof. It's night. You put your sunroof open if you got one, and you're on the highway. You just enjoy, and you just let the air. You let the radio flow.
Mhm.
It just sounds even that much better. So, yeah, man.
You could argue that that's Tell Me If You Still Care 2.0,
Hmm.
because when you think about it, y- um, I keep wanting to say I think Jason was the only other dude in the group that sang, but he used to say the first verse goes hours past, the weeks turn into months, and
Right.
then Mary Davis says time is loneliness when you're not around, and it's like yeah, it almost sounds like 2.0. Tell Me If You Still Care 2.0, but I have my own hot take about the SOS band catalog that I'm
Okay.
going to drop, and I want to know what you think about this. So there's a trilogy that I like to call in the SOS catalog called the Side Piece Trilogy. We've talked
Hmm.
about three of these songs already. There's well actually there's actually a prequel to that on the Two album from 1981. Mary Davis wrote this one called Are You Ready? And then of course then you go into the trilogy that I like. You've
Right.
got Tell Me If You Still Care.
Right.
You got Just the Way You Like It,
Right.
and then you got On Borrowed Love. Those three songs sound like the seven stages of grief of an affair. Because when you think about it, Mary's like, in the first bars of Tell Me If You Still Care. I mean, after you've already worked up a sweat dancing to that intro, that's probably one of the 5 or 10 greatest intros of the 80s, by the way.
Hmm.
And she says, friends tell me I am crazy. Like her friends are already saying that, you ain't worth a damn.
Hmm.
But
Right.
I don't care about your other girls. We just be good to me. And then of course, tell me if you I mean, just the way you like it, it's still the same thing. You keep
That
your other
is
girl.
that's my sleeper. So like, that's my sleeper in the trilogy though, just the way you like it.
Mhm.
I think that is even more progressive, risque
Yeah.
than the previous one because it's like you can still have your fun as she doesn't have to be as long as she's your number one he can have his fun. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
like that one is I think yeah that is one that I think is slept on. It's not one of their. It's like kind of one. It's kind of backer in their catalog, but yeah. Um, I
I
mean, the
think I think
first,
that I think that honestly, no disrespect to anybody out there, but that might be one of those ethical, non-ethical, non-monogamy songs.
yeah, ethical non-monogamy songs. Yeah, yeah,
I'm just putting that out there.
yeah. That
And
might be your predecessor to SZA's version of Weekend Girl, which is
mhm,
was it SZA? Yeah, that version
yeah,
of the Weekend Girl, which is just for the weekend. So yeah, but yeah, it's that is again it's a fascinating era. It's again coming out of these are kids that grew up in the hippies movement and the sexual liberation of the 70s,
yeah.
and now the 80s are here, and there's a reason why my girl Stephanie Mills said I know we're living in the 80s. I mean it's funny to laugh at now.
Right.
We're talking about boomers, but it's like I know we're living in the 80s, so they kind of had their own little thing going. So I think that kind of speaks to that.
Yeah, Stephanie was definitely pushing back on putting a rush on me. Like that's probably yeah. Stephanie Mills is a whole nother episode to herself. Just an incredibly talented woman. And at 68, 67, 68 years old. Respectfully.
Would
we are
would
we are on the same page with this one, buddy. But yes, coming back to the SOS band. Just when you put them up against, I mean, because we got to remember the 80s was a tough time for bands because music started to become more, computerized.
hmm
I'll never forget. I was watching. watching it when Unsung did the 2 Hour Disco episode.
Hmm.
Phil Hurt, who was a producer for Philly International, he said synthesizers and drum machines, instead of becoming a tool to get a sound, they became the sound. And when you take drums away from drummers,
Right.
when you take horn parts, which you can patch in on a synth away from horn players, same thing with strings, even bass from bassists, for crying out loud. It just feels like bands had a tough time in the 80s, but when you,
Look at Cameo. I mean, look at how many people were on the first Cameo album
oh my
versus
God.
versus those last Cameo albums. I mean,
The crazy part about it is you ask a few members about that change, that was not a willing change. So apparently that's the reason we don't have a Cameo on song,
mm,
because Larry doesn't like to talk about those days, but some of the folks are more than willing to talk about it. Very
and
interesting.
he's still making money off of them.
Yeah, he just had a stroke recently too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we send our best to Larry Blackman. Cameo is another one of those bands. But yeah, that's the point. When you think about bands like SOS Band, Cameo, Atlantic Star, Midnight Star, that were still
Hmm.
able to be good in the 80s, just what do you think made them last a little bit longer than, say, because Earth, Wind and Fire kind of tired out at the by the middle of the 80s. P Funk was already gone because George Clinton had I don't know, squandered everything. And you had the Osley brothers had eventually splintered off into two different bands, which was
Right.
crazy in itself. But just, what do you think made, SOS Band and a few others last a little bit longer into the 80s than you would say other bands?
Yeah, and you can't forget Shalimar, which you talk about breaking up of groups.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't know. I mean, I think that's fascinating. Like you said, I think those three bands in particular. You talk about the SOS Band, Midnight Star, and Atlantic Star. Man, just really, I think there was chemistry there. There was familiarity. I think there was some organicness to it that I don't think that I think made them kind of stick around as long as they could. But like you say, it's tough when there's you pay for a ticket and you're paying for 40. You feel like you're paying good money for a ticket, but the band got to pay 12 six other people. It
Mm-hmm.
kind of everybody gets to that money situation. So I don't know, man. I think it was just it was a time where again things were in flux. There was the transition, like you said, from the instrumentation to the computerization, and but people still. I mean, I think they had versatility. All of those groups were able to make great dance music as well as ballads. And it's hard to be able to do both. And you could argue which ones they did better than the other, but I think they had a elasticity to them
Mm-hmm.
that that really kind of that really kind of held them. So I think that I would think that would be kind of what did that. And working with the right people, working with the right songwriters, and having that chemistry for as long as they did. I mean, again, we talked about Jam and Lewis and how instrumental they were to the reconfiguring of their sound. And it's just I mean, great songs. I mean, again, we kind of went through the ones for SOS Band, but even those other bands, just some elite songs and songwriting. So,
Yeah, it's crazy now because when you think about it, there aren't any real popular black bands out there. You had the internet for a second, and then they just sort of, went their own way. Apparently, they're back in the studio though, which
okay,
is which is, may God let that work out. But you think about it now, everybody's either a solo act or a duo, and even duos break up. When you
right,
think about, especially in the rap game, we just got the Clips back together, but JT in
and they're
Miami,
brothers.
yeah. They were gone for a minute. That's because Malice went,
Right,
he devoted himself to the Lord, which is nothing wrong with that, by
right.
the way. But him and Pushback on the same track together just felt like college to me, and that
Mhm.
was wonderful. But it's hard to make. We talk about this all the time. How hard it is to make money in the 21st century. When you're trying to specialize in something. Like, both of us, like Steve runs HBCU Game Day. I work for, I guess, a competitor, HBCU Sports, and we both. We're fighting the same fight, even though we work for different organizations, because we sort of have to. work with, separate ourselves. We consider ourselves the contenders, and then we have to separate ourselves from the pretenders who are just in this trying to, clout chase. But we're like trained journalists, covering black college sports, and people sort of look at us crazy. And it's like, wait a minute, we're the ones with the training here. And, to bring it to a music perspective, there are people who, make good music, but they don't get the same, you know, publicity or rub that people who are just in this fooling around do. And that can be very frustrating. So I imagine, for bands in the 80s, it was like that. Because if you think about, you know, the way that songwriters and producers started, just working with solo acts, and bands were like, well, wait a minute, we need some help too. And then it's like they just forget about bands. It's really frustrating. And that's probably why we romanticize that era so much, because it was back when you could put out a band and people actually flock to them. Like, we have we've seen with Wayne Lewis just passing away from Atlantic Star. People are really, just digging back into the Atlantic Star catalog. And I hate that it took for Wayne passing for people to
Right.
do that. But I mean, Atlantic Star had some bops. And I mean, I'm glad that everybody in the SOS band is still with us, even though they're, once again, two
There are
separate groups.
parts.
Two separate groups. I swear, man,
It
if I'm ever president of the United States, there will be a law that all of these black bands that have had falling outs, we're gonna get y'all in a room on Capitol Hill, and we're gonna work this out so y'all all can
take
tour together.
take him to Camp David. Yeah, nah, it's I mean, in the words of the song, if we really care for each other, why are we apart?
Yes, yes.
The human condition. But yeah, man. Like you said, just to have them back on streaming is just great. I've
Mhm.
been definitely making sure that I have been taking full advantage of it. Like I said, whether it's in the house, on the car, in the car. Just really excited. I haven't been this excited to see someone's music back on streaming since Anita Baker got back on the streaming. That was another rough time.
Yeah,
So yeah, man, it's just really great stuff. And like I said, I went back yesterday and dug in some of their initial records. And man, it's like this song I think is like these songs, especially those Jam and Lewis records. They're kind of like a time capsule for those
hmm,
of us who maybe didn't like when we didn't experience the 80s in a full way.
right.
By the time the 80s ended, I was four. You know what I mean? So I just have to kind of, but I'll listen to this, or I'll go back and watch Soul Train, and it's like it can transport you to your version of what it was like. So I think it's a great band to have there. I think I did. Yeah, you talk about the different versions of the SOS band. I think they did perform at WSSU homecoming one year. I was a little disappointed. That the version I got. I'm not gonna lie, but that we got streaming now, so there's
Yeah.
that.
All right. So to close this out, give me your top 10 SOS band songs.
Okay, okay, okay. All right. So I've got Just the Way You Like It. 10 is probably low for that. I've got I'm Not Running from the the Rise. Let's see. I have SOS did that. Yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah. No, 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 nobody can
all the
figure it out, but we know
all the
what you're talking
dits,
about.
all the dits and dats.
Yeah.
I have uh I have Borrowed Love. Then I have Sands of Time. I think that puts it at that's my six. Uh Even When You Sleep is my five. Number four is The Finest. Number three is Weekend Girl. Ooh, sheesh.
Gotta read.
And then we'll go. I gave Weekend Girl. Did I give No One's Gonna Love You? I haven't given that one yet. Nope.
Mm.
Yeah, No One's Gonna Love You is my number two, and then number one is Tell Me If You Still Care.
All right, that's a pretty good top 10. All right, I'm gonna give mine and then we're gonna get up out of here. All right, number 10 for me is Borrowed Love. Number 9 is High Hopes. I mean, that's probably one of my favorite SOS band songs on my running playlist on Saturday mornings. All right, that's number 9. Number 8, I'm gonna go When You Sleep. Number 7, Just the Way You Like It. Number 6, The Finest. Number 5, Sands of Time.
Okay.
No one's gonna love you. Number 4, Tell Me If You Still Care. Number 3, uh, Just Be Good to Me. Number 2, and I guess I'll go Weekend Girl number 1. I mean, the crazy part about the SOS band catalog is they have so many good songs that it's subject to the day. Those are the ones I could just think of that just,
Right.
registered it to me at the time. Honestly, I would probably put Sands of Time a little higher because I mean, again, that's just Tell Me If You Still Care 2.0. It's a little slower
Hmm.
than Tell Me If You Still Care, but it's still the message is still there. But as you can tell, we are very, very happy to have the SOS band back on stream, and hopefully they stay there. Hopefully they stay there. We got to work on getting Alexander O'Neal's debut in full back on stream. I mean,
Okay.
because they were both on the same label. They were both on Clarence Avant's Taboo Records. Matter of fact, I'm going to say this again. If you have not watched The Black Godfather on Netflix about Clarence Avant, I mean, I know you have. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the people on the screen. But if you have not, oh, you haven't? Oh man, you got to check it out. Especially being the head of an organization that is nationally known. Like Clarence Avant had Taboo Records, and he was like the Black Godfather. I highly recommend you check out the Black Godfather. It is a wonderful documentary. It's one of the last pieces of art he did, unfortunately, before he passed away. But yeah, but we got to get Clarence Avant's family to get Alexander O'Neal's debut back on stream. But yes, that's why his band is back on stream. We're happy to talk about it, and we're glad you joined us for day number 19 of the BMM 30 series on the Groove Line. Stephen J. Gaither, thank you for joining us. Tell everybody where they can check you out.
Yeah, man, I appreciate the invite for sure. Stephen J. Gaither on Twitter. You can also follow me on my YouTube too. I'm getting that out as well. So, and then of course HBCU Game Day wherever records are sold. I mean, wherever wherever there's internet. So, yeah, appreciate it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for joining us for this ride on the Groove Line. Day 20 is Philly Friday, so you already know I'm going to be talking about the 2 albums Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes put out in 1975, and those were the last 2 that Teddy Pendergrass appeared on, so there's going to be a story behind that. So be ready for Philly Story Time on Friday. So for Stephen J. Gaither, I'm Chris Stevens. Until the next time we speak, y'all be good or be good at it.